What's going on? And welcome to 90s Basketball Gems, where you're going to find 90s basketball gems. Can't say it no plainer than that. But what we're going to do today, man, is all this Michael Jordan stuff going on. We're going to talk about uh, the latest, which is that 3-minute clip or whatever it is that he did of that interview that the NBA has fooled us into thinking that Michael Jordan is going to actually be in the studio. All this is just an Ahmad Rashad version of an interview that they clipped and that they paid him $40 million for. Man, talk about being able to make some money just in your sleep. I mean, it's ridiculous. But hey, that's Michael Jordan. He's been making money forever, and gaining everybody's attention forever. And it seemed like, him being absent out of the spotlight and not showing himself or making any statements has really set the stage for him to make as much money as possible, because so much stuff has happened, especially in recent years. And so anytime he shows up, then everyone pays attention. So in this particular case, he is given a take on load management. All right, something that's been a very controversial topic for the NBA and the fans. Some fans, especially as older fans, we can't stand it. But it seemed like the newer fans make excuses for it. So it's always a something that's very controversial, because it's just a different NBA. And so when Michael Jordan speaks, then everyone want to listen. So the load management has been something that everyone wants to know. One of the topics people want to hear. So even though this interview is, in my opinion, it's kind of deceiving the fans, at the same time I want to hear it, because I'm sure they're going to talk about more things. So that's why a lot of people are tuning in to it, is actually overshadowing the NBA, and the games just being played. But we'll get into that. But what I'm going to do, since everyone's talking about it, I'm going to listen to a few people that have a take on it, and I'm just going to give my take and behind theirs. So what I'm gonna do is, first person we're gonna listen to, man, is Jason Whitlock. Jason Whitlock is controversial himself, and he always have a different opinion. Sometimes you agree with him, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you love him, sometimes you can't stand him. But we gonna hear what he got to say, and then I'm gonna comment.
Michael Jordan is hovering over the NBA, and I get why. This is not a criticism of Michael Jordan. It's really a criticism of Adam Silver and the executives and ownership in the NBA. They can't come up with a solution for what's wrong with the NBA. And so they're like allowing Michael Jordan and the media to mostly drive the discussion about what's wrong with the NBA. This is Adam Silver is the worst, the weakest commissioner I've ever seen in professional sports in my lifetime. He has no solutions. And so he's allowing their premier, because again, the NBA on NBC is now, to me, in the catbird seat. They're the top. They're what TNT used to be. Now that the TNT shows on ESPN, it's the NBA on NBC. And now they're using the greatest player of all time to basically subtly take a dump on the NBA. This is inappropriate. It's a mistake. If Michael Jordan were a part of a process of fixing the NBA, and reducing the games and coming up with solutions for eliminating load management, for making competition, real competition, to reinstall that into the NBA. I would be all for this. But what this really is, because at the end of the day, what the NBA exists is to sell tennis shoes. And Michael Jordan is a reminder that LeBron James and none of these other players can market tennis shoes, gym shoes, sneakers, the way that I can. And so they can't move on from Michael Jordan. And I've never seen this. I was looking up like who's Wayne Gretzky in hockey, and I know I don't watch a lot of the National Hockey League, but is he hovering over the NHL and reminding everybody constantly? Like, compared to my day, the NHL sucks because trust me, I'm sure in comparison, the NHL isn't as competitive as it was during Gretzky's day. I'm sure it's less physical. But
Real quick, and I think you make a point because as much as I love Michael Jordan and the Bulls and the previous era of basketball, the NBA is really doing a disservice by not promoting the younger talent. Regardless of how you feel, I'm not a fan really of this new era of basketball, but um, they've been marketing a lot of the players for a little bit too long. LeBron James and Steph Curry and KD and James Harden and all these people that were stars from the 2010 era, for the up to 2020. They still marketing those stars. They never really they haven't really put a whole lot of focus on current generation players. They're starting to do it a little bit. I've noticed within the last 2 seasons, but what LeBron James is on his 21st year. It's too long. I think Steph is probably years 18, 19, something like that. It's too long. Yeah, he's a good player. They're still good, but they're not really marketing the Ja Morant as much and some of the other guys, the guys on Boston and whatever, and then some of the players that they're trying to market to us are, this is the first time that I could look at an NBA roster or multiple NBA rosters, and I really can't tell you who's on these teams. That's why I'm struggling to name some of the players. I guess with Jaylen Brown, and then what's the other guy? He's a star, but it just goes to show you how the NBA doesn't do a good job with putting the right players, uh, on Front Street, so to speak, or in term, not really on Front Street, just a term used for something else, but they're not doing a good job putting all of their stars, marketing their stars correctly. They're not doing that. And so as a result, um, those of us that's trying to follow it even a little bit, we don't know who all these people are. And then it's so much focus on teams that are overseas that are foreign players, I should say. It's so much focus on foreign players that you don't know who's coming out. We don't know who those people are. So when we see them, it's like, okay, who is that? And that's one of the other things about the previous era that made it good, is that we were able to reference a lot of players. We knew Tim Duncan, where he played. He went to college. People followed a lot of these players from college. You followed them through high school first, probably. Then they went to college. Then they went to pros. And so they already built a following. So once they got to the NBA, we knew who they were. We knew who Shaq was when he got to the NBA because we already seen him in college, And so to me, that part is gone, and I think that's part of the problem for the NBA, and that's the negative side effect of them pushing this global league and trying to focus on uh, European players. So That's my take. Let's continue. See what else you have to say.
Wayne Gretzky isn't hovering over everything. Again, for even when Michael Jordan, and you can say, hey, and again, I'm not blaming Jordan, but the whole GOAT conversation that has now gone on for 20 plus years because of LeBron James. It's all
That GOAT conversation is the most tired thing in the world, man. There, when I listen to these podcasts, all you're gonna hear is who's your GOAT, who's your top five. Those two are the worst questions in the world at this point. Listening to these podcasts, that's all they ask. Who's your GOAT? If you don't have LeBron James in it, people gonna have a problem with you. If you don't say Michael Jordan, somebody gonna have a problem with you. It's just crazy, man. It's crazy. Who's your top five? And it could be a top five of NBA, top five rapper, top five singer, but the top five question is terrible. Just like who's the GOAT? They need to find some other questions.
all looking back. It's all looking in the rearview mirror. And we've had Last Dance, the docu-series that dominated the discussion and virtually kind of reignited or added more gasoline to the GOAT conversation and the more conversation about Michael Jordan rather than any of the current players. We just don't see this. And it's like it's unquestioned that Wayne Gretzky is the GOAT in hockey. But I don't see a constant conversation. And you could say, well, but that's because no one's challenged Wayne Gretzky's throne. I don't really see this in the NFL. It's,
To be honest, nobody really challenged Michael Jordan's throne either. Kobe came close. LeBron, they trying to force that, but there's no way. Uh, and Michael Jordan was just a different player, man. Uh, it's just what it is. You can argue, in my opinion, and I know I said I'm tired of the top five stuff, but you can argue Wilt Chamberlain and Kareem and certain people, over Michael Jordan all day long. But any modern player, forget about it.
Players are allowed to be great in their era, and we respect them, we honor them, and there's not a constant comparison of, hey, Roger Staubach's not as good because Tom Brady won all these Super Bowls. There's something inappropriate to me about Michael Jordan's current relationship with the NBA and the constant conversation that's being driven around him and the constant and this isn't me defending the current NBA. There are problems. They don't compete. My problem is we never move towards a solution. Nothing. I've seen from, hey, let's paint up the court. Hey, let's try different things for the NBA All-Star Weekend. None of this gets at the heart and foundation of, hey, what's wrong with the NBA? Why isn't it as competitive as it used to be? Why is it getting less and less competitive? And the solution is, and I've talked about this previously, but I just want to reiterate, at some point, a commissioner of the NBA, a commissioner of the NFL, a commissioner of the National Hockey League, or Major League Baseball is going to figure out that at some point, some part of the player's salary must be connected to wins and losses. If you want to fix things, fix that. And you can. There's enough money being paid to these athletes now that you can give them a base salary and then figure out a system that rewards them and provides them extra money for every victory.
That is excellent, in my opinion. I think that's the real problem with the NBA is the fact that players are making so much money once they get to the NBA. I mean, you made it. Once you signed a contract for several $1,000,000, you made it. It wasn't like that back in the '80s and well, in the '90s it was like that. But the dollars picked up. But in the '80s, that's why the '80s was so competitive was because players didn't make generational wealth. They made enough money to live good off of, and if they was able to have a good career, which was predicated on winning, you know, the better they played, they will be able to get contracts that'll keep the money coming in, and hopefully by the end of their career, they then established themselves. They made enough money to pay off a couple houses and some cars, and you know, really take care of their family. In fact, I remember listening and hearing somewhere where, uh, you know, they did get bonuses, for making the playoffs and for going a certain uh, level. I think once you reach the conference finals, I think you got another bonus, or I think every round that you made it to, that was another bonus, and then there was a bonus for winning championships. Now, back then, I think maybe the bonus was a couple 25,000, 50,000, 70, maybe a couple 100,000. But if you think about it, that's not enough money for you to retire on and live comfortably. So that means that for you to keep getting all them extra bonuses, that means you have to keep winning. That means, you had to try to be on the winning team. That means you had to play, because not playing meant that, hey, somebody could come take your spot. So there was more incentive to playing. I think the whole thing with championships, outside of the Michael Jordans, Magic Johnson, and Larry Birds, the franchise players, I think they were playing for the love of the game and for championships. Because the money was going to be there for them for endorsements in other areas. But for the lower tier players and the role players, they needed to be on championship teams, because that's where those endorsements came and those other opportunities came once you was on a championship team, right? So it was incentivized for them to want to play and shoot for a championship. So that's why the game was so much more competitive, because they were playing for money and for the opportunity to have generational wealth. But once they retire, now, as if you notice, as the years went by, even going through the '90s, that desire to play and desire to win all kind of went down a little bit. The only thing that will sustain it is if it was the players like the Kobe's and the Kevin Garnett's, and people that grew up watching the '80s era, and they was able to, instill that mentality in themselves that, hey man, it's about winning championships. The money's gonna be there, you know. And so as time went on, the money got bigger, then the less and less people cared about winning. So now we in the era where, man, a role player could come in and make $20 million. Michael Jordan and them weren't making no $20 million in the '80s. Not on a not NBA contract. Maybe the entire '80s they made $20 million, but they wasn't making that kind of money coming in. So when you got the minimum salary, set at, 5 million, 10 million, whatever it is, and then the max is you going up to a couple hundred mil for the marquee players. They ain't got no incentive to play hard. What are you playing hard for? You made it. And so if there was a way that the NBA could fix it to where these guys are not guaranteed all that money, then that will fix the competitive part. That's only one thing. That's one thing that will fix it, is for those large contracts to not be guaranteed. Because the fact that they are, that's why people don't want to compete. People don't want to play hard no more. So that's one thing. So let's see what else he got to say.
That's how you fix pro sport. Running out Michael Jordan to subtly scold the NBA and embarrass the NBA. These guys are beyond embarrassment. They can't be embarrassed. They make too much money. And there is really no shame in left in American society. They can have all the baby mamas, they can be as irresponsible, they can get arrested, they can we got a gambling scandal going on right now. They don't care. They can't be shamed. They make too much money. They have no concept of shame, of upholding some sort of standard. They are the standard, and we pay them like they're the standard, and so they behave like that. Some league is going to figure out, and Adam Silver should be the leader. That, hey man, we got guys making $50 million a year. Can't we pay them a base salary of $30 million and then let the top players on the team make some sort of amount of bonuses based on wins and losses that would elevate them to 40 million or 45 million? Everybody's getting rich.
I honestly think 30 million is too high. that's still enough money to be like, you know what? Um, I'm good. I'm going to chill a little bit. I think they should probably lower it to like 20 million, maybe 15 million base. 15 million base, because once you figure all the contracts, all the taxes and other expenses that go into it, they're going to have money. They're going to still, be rich. It'll put them on a level of what Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and those stars were in the 80s. It'll, based on the cost of living and everything, it'll put them on that level. Now if they want to make the extra 50, 60, $100 million, then, hey, you get to the finals, you get to, you win a championship, or, you reach these milestones or whatever, then, you get this extra stuff, this extra loot. So, yeah, 30 million is still lazy money. Give me 30 million, I ain't doing much. Even after they take taxes and all this stuff, I'm chilling.
Guys, let's say guys are making 7 million, and it was an opportunity based on wins and losses over the course of the season to add an additional 3 to 5 million. That would make people compete, and we'd quit.
I just thought of something. Wouldn't that be something if they do that right? And then based on like if you go on a 2 or 3 game losing streak, then you lose money. Oh my gosh, man, you will see some fools. You will see some of the greatest basketball ever if they did that. You know, uh, if you win, the more wins you get, then they'll add a couple extra bucks. A couple 100,000. You know, per each victory. But if you go on a losing streak, and see that'll fix all that tanking stuff. Them tanking to try to get the draft picks. Oh man. But then how is that going to affect all the betting stuff that's going on behind the scenes? So, which in my opinion, well, I'll give my opinion about load management a little bit later, but I think load management, well, I'll kind of touch on it a little bit. I think load management kind of is a byproduct of some of the betting. What I mean by that is I think that so the players are taking a hit for that. I think the leagues are facilitating, the load management, and then based off what we know, if players ain't playing, then that lowers the opportunity for these teams to win, and you could bet a certain way. I'm not familiar with all the betting terminologies or whatever because I don't do that, but obviously if LeBron James is not playing, or if the star player is not playing, then that lowers their opportunity for that team to win. So, but if you can figure out a way to get that change the odds of that other team to get them to win, then anyway, I don't know about all that betting stuff, but y'all know what I'm trying to say. Some of y'all, hopefully. But anyway, let's continue.
Having this load management conversation. Let me stop there and bring Jay Skapatak, and Paul Burkhart into the.
Okay, so that was Jason Whitlock's take on it. I was able to listen to a little bit of it, so I kind of knew what he might say. I haven't listened to what these other guys had to say, so I'm not going to record yet. But if they say something, then I'll jump in. But in the meantime, uh, I'm going to listen to see what's going on and find some other videos I could probably attach to this, and we can see we can listen and see what everyone else's take on it, what everyone else's take is on it. Okay, so I'm listening to this guy Scap on Jason Whitlock, and I gotta agree with what he said. His intentions or what his expectations was for Michael Jordan coming back. Let's listen to it.
This isn't the capacity of which I wanted Jordan to be back, and it's not what I would have myself wanted. More in studio, more, talking about the current game, like reacting maybe even to like specific games and trends that are ongoing right now in today's NBA landscape, not something that was pre-recorded 3 months ago. Or potentially like you hinted at, maybe have Jordan be part of some kind of a rules committee, or like maybe past and current players trying to decide on how can we repair the product as it is right now. Because as you kind of accurately pointed out, like all this is doing is feeding more fuel to the flames of the this era stinks, and the era quote I grew up in, or that I started watching the NBA and is so much better than this current crappy product. Like it's just reigniting both sides, like pundits and people.
Yeah, so that's I agree. It'll be nice to see Michael Jordan do other things with the game. Setting rules and stuff, maybe. I'm thinking more along the lines of being occasionally being in the studio, occasionally being on the sidelines, doing the play by play. Even though I know that's asking way too much for him. But I mean, he could pick and choose which games he wants. Michael Jordan. It's not like he's going to be expected to travel. He go where he want to go, But just every now and then, just pop up and talk about the game and give his take on it. And who knows? Maybe that's something they're going to do later. And I was thinking about this as I was listening to this guy talk. Perhaps they just trying to air this interview, play this interview so that they can get all of the questions out, all of the things out that Michael Jordan pretty much been silent on. He's been pretty much silent on for, forever. We haven't heard nothing from Michael Jordan. All the stuff that's been happening in the game, all the stuff that's been happening, even with Scottie Pippen's situation, and then after that, his son dating Larsa. I mean, all these things you never really heard nothing from Michael Jordan. You don't know what he thinks about anything. Stephen A may have read a few text messages or whatever, but nobody actually heard him speak on anything. So perhaps the NBA just decided we're going to put this interview out first to get that stuff out the way. Because if you think about it, if Jordan just popped up and was just giving out, talking about different rules he want to see, if he was just talking about the current game itself, we're going to be asking? What do you think about load management? We're going to be trying to find out all these other different things and get answers to other stuff that we wanted to know. So perhaps the NBA or NBC just decided, let's air this interview, get those questions addressed so that we can get to, the other reason or the real reason why Jordan is here. And then we can allow him to help us to fix this game, because obviously this game needs to be fixed severely. Okay, so this guy Paul on Jason Whitlock, he put a different perspective on it in terms of the reason why Michael Jordan is necessary to bring him back. Basically, you know what? I'm just gonna play what he had to say because I didn't hear everything, but what I heard so far, I I see his point. So I'm just gonna go ahead on and let this play. I'm gonna let him play, and I haven't heard the whole thing, but I heard most of what he had to say, and so I'm just gonna let the rest of this play out, and then you can respond if you want to in the comments.
First of all, this era of kids. And so I think it's huffing and puffing about a problem that we're all aware of. These guys are lazy. They're entitled. They don't want to deal with aches and pains and so only thing we should be talking about is solutions. Persuasion won't work, and I don't think the fans that you think he's doing outreach to, I don't think they can be persuaded by nostalgia if they don't see a different product, more effort, and less load management. They're not coming back. These players are unlikable. The fans that have been run off, they're traditional family people with traditional values. They don't want their kids mimicking the behavior of these current professional athletes. Paul, ball's back in your court.
Back to how you opened the show, you talked about a process. I do believe that this is part of a process. It is, again, I hate to repeat it, but it is out with the old, in with the new. And some of these new players or newer players, they are marketable, but the stench and the overlay covering of what it has been for the last 20 to 23 years, I cannot emphasize this enough. I study this daily. From a business and entrepreneurial perspective, they have pushed away people, and I know your age, Jason, I don't know Jay's age, but the 30, 35, 45, 55, 65, many have left. Yep. They can relate to Jordan, and by the way, we cannot go to the finish line in terms of what he's going to talk about with Tarico over the next.
Well, perhaps the NBA recognized that, and that's why they're marketing towards the young. Because the old fans are, old and dying off, so they want to create they want to create their own personal brand of basketball and basically erase what the old NBA was. That's why they're coming up with all these stats and all these narratives to try to make it seem like the 80s and 90s weren't that good, and why Jordan wasn't that good, because they trying to manufacture what they want the NBA to be, so that they can control the narratives, and so they can control who's hot and different things of that nature. I think that's a part of why the NBA is doing everything. But the one thing that I guess kind of counter that, I guess this whole Michael Jordan thing kind of counters, my take on that, is the fact that they bringing him back. But I think he made a good point when he said that, they trying to show the upcoming stars. Maybe perhaps he's speaking to a broader audience of athletes of all sports to have a certain mindset in that, because let's face it, man, LeBron, Kawhi, and all this whole thing did, and this whole load management stuff, it ruined the NBA. It obliterated it. It's just not watchable, and it's hard to watch the NBA at times because of load management, and the fact that they want to throw LeBron in our face every other game. We got to hear about LeBron and something that he did, and then now his son is in the league, and now they're trying to force him on us. And he clearly is not an NBA player, but they want to try to convince us that he is. I think people are tired of trying to be convinced that what we're seeing is great, and it's crazy to us because we saw what greatness was. We know what greatness is. on a basketball court. We've already witnessed it. But you are showing us something that is opposite of greatness and expecting us to believe that it is. Those of us that saw it, we know what greatness really is. But, the younger generation, they don't know what greatness is. They know what they're being sold. They just don't realize they're being sold something. But we see it. Those of us that's been around and witnessed the NBA, we see that they're selling something. The Magic Johnson and all the in that era of players and Michael Jordan that era of players, they sold us on how they played the game. We came to watch when we saw what they did on the court. They didn't have the media and people, the Stephen A. Smiths and some of these other clowns trying to convince us that, hey man, this is the best thing ever. No, they said this. They said that with how they played and the results on the basketball court, and then we just, gravitated to the TV when they came on because we wanted to see more. So, that's the deal with that. So let's see what else they're saying.
Say, 2 hours and 45 minutes worth, or the fluidity, and if they will add more. I do believe we're going somewhere here. I don't think NBC is going to blow this and just make it about what we've heard in the first 6-7 minutes. I think we will get there. Is he going to draw X's and O's? Probably not, but I don't think that that's what's needed. He's the only person in the world, except for maybe Tiger Woods and Tom Brady, that can speak to everybody and say, look, here's how it was. Now get these new players to buy in. I do think the Anthony Edwards, I do think the Giannis, I do think Cooper Flags, I do think that those people are impressionable and persuadable and may take his guidance. I do
definitely got talent.
Scap.
They need to market for them.
I just have to fundamentally disagree. Paul, I don't think you referenced 20 to 23 years or whatever. I disagree. This started right around 2011, 2012. Basically when Kobe Bryant ceded control of the NBA, stopped being the true face of the NBA, and LeBron James took over. That's when it all went to crap.
Kobe was never really the face of the NBA. He should have been.
Even if you could argue that the 90s
we know why he wasn't.
The early 2000s, there were still players carrying the baton of the way the game was intended to be played, competing the way that the former players did in previous eras. Somewhere along the line, the leadership on the court in this current era, which begins with LeBron James, dropped the baton. They let go of the rope, and now all of the other players that follow behind him are kind of just following his lead, playing like the Pied Piper in this perpetual just era of destruction that he has authored. And I think it's going to take a very strong-willed commissioner that is going to incentivize competition and make these players want to compete, not only in terms of playing all the games, but in playing both.
Incentivize competition and making them play all the games is key. Something has to be done about that.
Size of the ball. So that's step one. Step two is, you're right, it's got to be some young player that's not even in the NBA today, I think, that has to come along, be the best guy, and compete at that level, like the Michael Jordans, like the Magics, like the Kobe Bryants. And then the other athletes surrounding them will try to raise to that one guy's level and meet him. That is so it's not an easy solution by any sense of the word. I'm not saying that it is, but I don't think that the answer is invoking Michael Jordan back into the conversation or insinuating him back into the conversation, because
it helps.
You want to know what my age is? I grew up during the Jordan era. So I am one of these guys that thinks today's product is trash, and that I talk so glowingly and favorably about how it was in previous eras. But I don't think the way isn't to further the rift, because having Jordan presenting him, and trust me, like I said, I'm going to do it on my own platform. I'm going to talk about this stuff in agreement with Michael Jordan, but it's a misstep by the NBA. We have to try to start talking up this product while setting the steps into the future for total repair, which I just laid out. 2000.
I do agree. They, even though this product sucked, they have to figure out a way to magnify the greatness of the players today and market that. You can't keep going looking back. Even though I'm a huge fan of the 80s, 90s era, that's my era. That's what I grew up watching. But for the NBA to be what it needs to be, they have they have to figure out a way to fix their problems and at the same time focus on marketing the newer talent. For more of that, you can go to Jason Whitlock, Fearless. Uh, he talks about a lot of different things. Sports is probably half of what he talks about, but it's a pretty good conversation. My take on Jason Whitlock, I've been listening to him off and on for years. I remember he used to sit in a lot. I was introduced to Jason Whitlock through Jim Rome's show because he used to sit in a lot when Jim Rome would go on uh, vacation. Jim Rome, for the new guys, was the first uh, the first personality to have a podcast type of platform where it's just him and it's people that listen to him and they follow him. And he had what he called clones, which were people that, listen to his show and they talk like him. And they, when they would call the show, they would, for whatever reason, try to talk exactly how he would talk and say things how he would say it. It had its own culture, its own personality. But anyway, Jason Whitlock would go on there when Jim Rome was on vacation, and he would talk about a lot of the things he talk about now on Fearless. He's always been a controversial figure, but he has a really good profile or a really good page. So he says some things. I don't agree with everything, but go check him out if you want to hear more. All right, so now we're going to go into Dreamers Pro, which, he has a pretty good show. I've been listening to him for the last couple of years. I remember when he used to only get like maybe a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 listeners. And now this guy is ballooned big time. So shout out to him. But now he gives a take on it. I haven't listened to this at all. So I'm just going to kind of go with what I've been listening so far. He played the Michael Jordan interview, what was released. And so now he's going to give his take on it.
Y'all heard what Michael Jordan had to say. Excuse me, I'm going to play that for y'all again. But let's just address what Jordan is saying here. Jordan is talking about an entire shift in the mindset of the NBA. And a lot of it has to do with also the commissioner, Adam Silver. Because Adam Silver has been one of the proponents of load management. Remember, when load management had reached like the zenith,
don't forget about Adam Greg Silver Popovich.
Was the one that was coming out there and saying that the science supports load management. He was one of the people, this is the commissioner of the league, saying that. And this is one of the reasons why I am saying if Michael Jordan became the commissioner, NBA players would hate him. Especially these modern guys. They would hate Michael Jordan. They wouldn't love him.
Not at all.
Because Jordan is coming from a totally different era in time. A totally different era. Today's NBA players are cupcake players. They are. What's the saying? I think hard times build strong men. What is it? Good times create weak men. I forgot what it was. But now you're in a position where, for example, there was a video going viral yesterday of a game, I think, between the Golden State Warriors and the Memphis Grizzlies. And Draymond Green was in there trash talking Jaren Jackson Jr. Like just saying all kind of crazy stuff then. And I said to myself, I'm like, is nobody in this NBA gonna smack Draymond Green?
Man.
Nobody gonna smack.
Okay, hold on real quick. Hey, listen, Draymond Green. Okay, look. This era want to paint him to be the new Dennis Rodman. Get out of here. Draymond Green, if he played in the 80s and 90s, he probably would have been out the NBA. He probably wouldn't even have made a year or 2 years, because what is he going to do? He's a small, undersized big man. The only reason why he is a player of a certain status today is because of the team that he's on. His skill set just so happened to fit Golden State Warriors, to where, he's able to benefit from a somewhat Hall of Fame type career. It ain't so much because of his individual skill set. It's because of the type of player he is and how he was able to blend in well with the Golden State Warriors. But remember, when Steph was out and Clay was out and he was on the court, they didn't go nowhere. They didn't do anything. He got this attitude, and to be honest, back in the 80s and 90s, it was a whole lot of Draymond Greens. Xavier McDaniel, Charles Oakley, Anthony Mason, the real Dennis Rodman. They want to try to make him like you could call him the Dennis Rodman of this era, but he's not. But if you throw him in Dennis Rodman era, shoot, he's probably not even on the basketball court to showcase anything he could do. You know what I mean? So, Draymond, like I said, shout out, I'm happy he was able to have a legendary career for himself, but the reality is, I think Draymond speaks to, how what some people will call luck or good fortune plays a part into a player's ability to reach a certain level in their NBA career. One thing I will say, I'm gonna say this, and this is probably a bit, something that people will disagree with, but like, let's say if Michael Jordan got drafted to the '80s Lakers, he's not the same Michael Jordan. He's gonna be, don't get me wrong, he's gonna be Michael Jordan. He's going to be the guy that he's going to be exciting to watch. But the style of play that the Lakers had and their pecking order of who they wanted to be in control of the team and how that team played, it didn't facilitate, or it didn't facilitate a one-on-one type player. They would probably run some plays for him because they know he could score and do his thing, but at the end of the day, Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was going to be in control of the '80s Lakers, regardless who was on that team. So if Michael Jordan was on the Lakers, the '80s Lakers, he's still a great player. He's still exciting. He's going to definitely win some championships, but he's not the MJ that we know today. So that speaks to just how sometimes just being in the right place at the right time could affect your life and whether or not you're successful.
Like, Draymond gets to get it off whenever he wants, and these dudes nobody is checking Draymond. Nobody in this NBA is checking Draymond Green. Nobody. Draymond does any and everything to these dudes, and they do nothing.
Which speaks to him just being a big bully, because, he could do that. I'm not saying that he wouldn't do that against an Xavier McDaniel or Charles Oakley, but he's gonna fight. Now, one thing bullies do is bullies do what bullies do, and that's attack people that they know ain't gonna do anything, or they know ain't gonna fight back. So what would happen if Draymond ran up against Xavier McDaniel or Charles Oakley? And there's plenty more. I just use those just as an example, but they were, okay, a Vernon Maxwell. You you think he gonna run up on a Vernon Maxwell? You think he gonna do that to Vernon Maxwell? Nah, I doubt it because he know it ain't gonna just stop on the court for certain people. So anyway,
These are the weakest dudes you'd have ever seen in your life. How is it possible that Draymond has not been snuffed at least 2-3 times this season for running his mouth like that? You could not put a Draymond Green in the era that Jordan and these guys came. You
Not at all.
couldn't do it. If there was going to be a bully in the NBA, it wouldn't be Draymond Green, bro.
Not at
That
all.
wouldn't be the guy.
Bill Laimbeer would have cold cocked Draymond Green. He would have had problems with him. Even a Kurt Rambis on the Lakers. So man, get out of here.
And is emblematic of this cupcake era. So the NBA players would not like Jordan. They wouldn't like him. They want to be babied. They want to be told how great they are, even when they suck. You can't coach them hard anymore. You can't say anything tough to them anymore because they're just going to have emotional. Yes, hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create soft men. Soft men create hard times. Thank you very much. That's what you have. And this is exactly where we are. Now the league's ratings are plummeting. All-Star game is a joke. All-Star week.
All-Star games is heartbreaking because that was a highlight of the season. That was kind of almost like our Super Bowl. If you was a basketball fan in the 80s and 90s, you look forward to the All-Star game because you was going to see, you wanted to see, well, okay, you knew that Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan had feuds or whatever, but you didn't mind seeing them on the same court in the All-Star game because it was going to just be fun and exciting. They was going to compete. That was never a question. You knew you was going to see a good game. You knew it. You was going to see some highlights. You kind of knew that they wasn't going to be playing as hard. Was it going to be, tough, super tough defense? You knew that. But you did know that they were going to play. The real stars were going to play. If you were selected to the All-Star team, you was playing. And when you got on the court, you was going to, put on whatever show you could for whatever minutes you got. It's just what it was.
Is a bigger joke. The fans are an afterthought. And this is why it is so important to get a chance to hear from another point of view on these issues. We've been listening to the LeBron James media-driven guy talk about these issues for the last 10 years.
And all they've been doing is backing up LeBron and trying to figure out ways to make him out to be better than everybody else that ever played the game, which is trash.
And for the most part, they've all been advocating for it. All of them. To the point where Kyrie Irving, at one point, I think he said, was it in 2021 or 2022, they got them playing under inhumane circumstances. Inhumane circumstances? You call playing basketball inhumane circumstances?
That's pretty soft. I ain't even gonna lie. And I like, what do you say, Kyrie Irving said that? Kyrie Irving is probably my favorite player that's still playing. He could play in any era. Kyrie Irving is Kyrie Irving in any era. And I can't say that about everybody, including LeBron. Kyrie Irving would do what he does in any era.
Who play basketball? So first of all, anybody doing something inhumane, they're usually doing it because they have no other option. There's nothing else for them to do. So they're doing it out of necessity. You deciding to be a basketball player and earn millions of dollars, that is a choice. So to hear these guys complaining about actually playing through a calendar year is where we are. Guys are complaining about back-to-backs. It's too hard. You can't even motivate guys to play anymore. They had to put in the in-season tournament just to make guys care in the middle of the season. This is where we are. So now you have Michael Jordan talking about low management is almost an alien thought to him. It's like just something that he can't even imagine. And of course, the cupcake era guys, they're going to be butthurt over what Jordan said. And then the NBA guys that want to sell their asses to the younger generation, they're going to defend it. Oh, no, you don't understand. You don't know. If you want to see modern NBA players get coddled, go watch that interview with the old man in the three with J.J. Redick and Ben Simmons. Go watch that interview. Go watch that interview. People are asking, oh, why won't Mark Jackson get a job in the NBA? Mark Jackson is going to get a job in the NBA, and these guys are going to allow a player like Mark Jackson to coach them?
Mark Jackson not being the coach is indication that something is going on, something is wrong. Because how is he not a coach? And that whole firing of him and Jeff Van Gundy, even though as a Bulls fan, I'm not a fan of Jeff Van Gundy, but I think him and Mark Jackson did a great job, on ESPN. The fact that they took them away is, that told a story of what the NBA really wanted, if you really think about it.
And I think that is emblematic of a bigger societal issue. Let's just keep it a buck. What we see in the NBA is a microcosm of what's going on in the world at large. If you believe that this era of men are tougher than the eras of our fathers and our grandfathers, you are high.
And that's something to that. I had a conversation with a friend years ago about that kind of stuff. I mean, I think as the years go by, as the decades go by, every generation of men is weaker than the generation before. I think that's by design for whatever reason, but that's the case. So if you look back at, everyone else, they had to endure a little bit more than what the next generation had to endure. And so, hey, we didn't have to go and kill our meat and eat it. We don't have to do that. But, there's a generation of men that had to do that because you couldn't just go to a grocery store and buy some meat or buy some, whatever. You had to grow your own bananas or grow whatever it is you're going to, eat. But now we can just go to the store and get it. So there is some truth to that.
You are lost. You cannot even compare this era of men to the era of our fathers and our grandfathers. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. You can't do it. You could make a legitimate argument that men are going backwards. They're getting weaker. They're becoming more feminized, and it's not even a question anymore. It's not.
Well, you can look at entertainment and see why that is, and I'm not going to get into that, but if you look around, those of us that that know, we know the real reason why that is. But, all you got to do is look at sports and entertainment, and it'll jump out right out at you.
Look at the way dudes even dress. It's like, yo, what happened? What happened? What is going on right now? So Jordan is speaking from an era that really is like, it doesn't exist anymore. But the thing is, there are a lot of NBA fans that are from that school of thought that will appreciate this. And Jordan is such a big voice and a big personality, he can say these things without being called a hater. Because if it was somebody else, it was an older player, what these guys are going to try to do is, wait, he's an old head. Here go the old head. Here go the old heads hating. Well, they can do that with every other old player, but they can't do it with Jordan. They can't. And this is why he poses a problem. They can't do it with him. Ant-Man is not going to come out and say, Michael Jordan, an old head. Bro, you're going to lose so many fans saying something like that. Nobody on Gil's Arena gonna be like, oh, Michael Jordan an old head. Well, first of all of them niggas is old heads. So I don't know what anybody on Gil's Arena look like calling somebody an old head. If you got white hair on your face, bro, you don't get to call nobody an old head. If you over 40, you cannot be running around calling people an old head. I'm sorry. You 38, 37, bro. Like, embrace your manhood. Let me play the Jordan clip for you guys again. What Michael Jordan just said.
And I'm going to respond to that real quick because I didn't get it. I was going to play it at the end or at some point, but if you're going to play it again, I'll respond.
The term load management has become such a hot button in the NBA.
I know you were going to talk about that one.
Because you played 80 games a lot. A lot. You played 82. What do you think of when you hear the term load management thrown around?
It shouldn't be needed, first and foremost. You know, I never wanted to miss a game because it was an opportunity to prove. It was something that I felt like, you know, the fans are there to watch me play. I want to impress that guy way up on top who probably worked his ass off to get a ticket or to get money to buy the ticket.
Do you really care about the guy who sat in the top deck at the Palace in Auburn Hills to watch you when you came to Detroit?
Yeah, because I know he's probably yelling at me. I don't want to shut him up. You know, he's calling you all kinds.
And see, there you go, right there. That was a reason to play, to shut people up. That was, see, it was a different mentality of hoopers back then versus now. See, they embraced the people talking mess to them. And so the goal was, and you can see it in Kobe and a lot of other players, their goal was, say what you want, I'm going to shut you up. Prime examples using Kobe. He used to get booed, especially after that Colorado stuff. He used to get booed. Even in LA, but mainly on the road, he would get booed like crazy. And he would embrace it, but in the fourth quarter, he would light that team up. And then that team would be that crowd would be chanting MVP for Kobe. That's how bad Kobe used to tear teams up. They used to hate on him. So it's a mentality thing of why players like, you know, of that era played the way they did. And we always talk about Jordan and Kobe, but Shaq had that same mentality. A lot of, even other lower tier players had that same mentality. I was just a mentality across the board, regardless of what level you played at. It wasn't specifically to the greats or the people that had the skills to drop 40 and 50 points every night. Because to be honest with you, anybody can have a good night on any given night, depending on, you know, certain situations. But, you know, but to do it consistently meant that you were, you know, that elite player. That's what set the Jordans and Kobe's apart from, you know, the average players. But anybody could have a 20, 30, 40 point, well, I don't want to say 40 point, but maybe a 20 or 30 point night.
As a name, I definitely want to shut him up.
Right.
You have a duty that if they're wanting to see you, and as an entertainer, I want to show, right? So if the guys are coming to watch me play, I don't want to miss that opportunity. Now, physically, if I can't do it, then I can't do it. But physically, if I can do it, and I just don't feel like doing it, that's a whole different lens.
So give me the first time that you came to that.
And that, again, speaks to mentality and your approach to the game. But like I said, I think some of the players are taking some of the heat behind the owners wanting to extend these players' serviceability. So if they can rest them for a few games, then perhaps they can be a lot more serviceable and a lot more usable in the long run during the duration of their contract, especially considering that a lot of players, after they get a large contract, will get injured. And then they never develop into the players that they were paid to be, you know. You know, and it goes back to what Jordan said on Oprah Winfrey Show years ago. Players are paid on potential. So if you pay a player on potential, you roll in the dice. It's exactly what he said. But if you can figure out a way to change that, okay, I'm going to give you this money, but we going to figure out a way to make sure that we keep you healthy for important times of the year. So they're going to allow them or make schedules for them to sit out. Of course, the NBA is not going to come out, or the teams are not going to come out and admit that that's what they're doing, because it will create a big old issue in the public. It'll be a public relations nightmare. But hey, they paying the players all this money. Hey, y'all gonna shoulder this burden. Y'all gonna be the face of this decision that we made. Because at the end of the day, it's gonna help us all out. I think there's something to that. As I look at everything, yeah, maybe some players that may be using it to their advantage, but I also think that teams are helping. And then coupled with that is probably whatever advantages that some of the behind the scenes stuff that we've been hearing about recently with all the gambling. There's an element of that that's involved in all this too. So yeah, that's just my opinion.
In the road in your career where you could have sat down and missed a game, but you fought through?
Third game of the season, starting my career.
Okay.
I twisted my ankle, and I had a teammate, David Greenwood. He says, you twist your ankle, young fella. Come over here and sit with me. This is you need to. I said, no, man. I'm trying to make a name for myself. There's no way I can sit. I need to get out there and show what I'm capable of. I want to play. I want to win. I want to make an impact. And I twisted my ankle. I taped it up, and I went back out, and I played. And I felt that. I always felt that. I always felt the necessary need that I could never leave my comrades out if I could perform, right? Even if I couldn't.
Now, I want to pause here for a second. I'm thinking.
Now, my take on that part is is not directly, but it made me think of Scottie Pippen when he sat out in the playoff game. But anyway, you know what? Forget what I just said.
And the person I'm thinking of is Kobe Bryant. And it goes to show you how a player can influence the next generation. Kobe was heavily influenced by the generation that came before him. The Magic Johnsons, but specifically the Jordan, who led his own generation, had a certain standard, right? Kobe adopted that and carried that with him. Kobe was a warrior, right? And that is something that permeated all throughout his era. But what has happened is, and the reason that we put LeBron in the title, because I think is apropos, the thing went Jordan, Kobe, LeBron. So we now have to ask the question, at what point along this line did the standard drop? And I think the standard dropped when it came to LeBron. That's when the standard dropped. That's when the entire machine got thrown into total chaos.
I agree.
Because LeBron ushered in the selfish era, the me era. It was no longer about team. It was really no longer about fans. It was more about me and my brand. It was about me and my brand, which they call player empowerment. And as a result of that, everything now became about the person, the brand. So it's to the point where now NBA players are afraid to go in a slam dunk contest because they're afraid to lose.
Trash.
Because if I lose, it's going to hurt my brand.
Trash.
Whereas before, traditionally, everybody did it. Going all the way back to Dr. J, Dominique.
Yeah, it was just about fun. It was about, nobody cared about that other stuff. It didn't hurt your brand if you lost. Nobody looked at Dominique any less because he lost to Jordan. People knew that he was still that dunker. You wanted, players was going to get out the way if he coming up. If the ball came off the rim and Dominique on the court, you already knew, watch your back, because he was going to be, dunking it back through. Like, none of that changed. Nobody cared about brands and stuff like that. It was just about hooping, about having some fun, Like, for example, I think Paul Pierce was in a dunk contest with Vince Carter. Man, well, nobody thinking about that now. I think he lost. Wait a minute, no, I think Paul Pierce won that. I think Paul Pierce won that because, well, for whatever reason, but I'm sure it was a technicality because Paul Pierce can't get up like Vince Carter. So nobody care about that kind of stuff, man. But this era, this generation, they seem to think it does. So it's whatever.
Spud Webb, Vince Carter, Kobe Bryant. All of these guys, they all did it. When did that tradition break? It broke with LeBron. And
But I will say this real quick. LeBron saying people give LeBron a hard time because he didn't join or go to the dunk contest, even though he said he was going to. Man, look, if you understand dunking is you have your game dunkers and you have your contest dunkers. LeBron is a game dunker. He's not a contest dunker. So I think he recognized that. That's why he never entered because, but it does speak to the whole branding thing because he probably felt like it would damage his brand if he went to the dunk contest because all he could really do was that one hand cock back. He could probably do a couple windmills, but he can't really do nothing that creative that's going to, warrant him a dunk contest championship. He wasn't going to do that. So I get why he didn't get in the dunk contest, but hey, it's all good.
Since then, we're at the point where now John Moran has never performed in the All-Star dunk contest. Zion Williamson hasn't performed in the dunk contest. You name any other high flyer, they haven't done it as well, and they have no interest in doing it. The All-Star game used to be competitive. The first half teams used to kind of lollygag. In the second half, mid-third quarter, intensity picked up. In the fourth quarter, it was a full-blown basketball game.
Sure was.
And now it's an afterthought. Why is it that we have a situation where Larry Bird is being asked to go speak to a locker room full of all-stars to try to take the all-star game seriously when LeBron is sitting in there?
Right, and then LeBron gonna look at them. At least that's what the reports are. LeBron gonna look at everybody as LeBird, as I said LeBird, as Bird is talking, and as in like, we ain't gonna listen to him, whatever. If that's true, that's crazy.
Why would you need Larry Bird to do that when you have the elder statesman in LeBron James? Why doesn't LeBron James tell the group, bro, we got to sit up and that's time to do it? So if LeBron is not doing it and he's not enforcing a standard, he's not an example of a standard, why should they follow? Let's talk about load management itself. I always said it was a pseudoscience. It made no sense. Absolutely no sense. And you didn't need to go to medical school to understand that. It made no sense. And who are the players that are popularized this? Kawhi Leonard,
Yep.
Just to name a few. And then you have others that will follow suit. You would have some games where players would be perfectly healthy. Perfectly healthy. Nothing is wrong with them. Nothing is wrong with them. They're not playing because they want to rep.
You know what? I remember seeing a game where LeBron or the Lakers was playing Boston. This is when I knew the load management was an issue. Rival team, Lakers versus Boston, and both LeBron and AD was sitting on the sideline, load managing, and I believe the stars from, or at least one of the stars from Boston, sat out and they didn't play. This is a rival. This is, this is supposed to be what we used to call back in the day a statement game. You know what a statement game was, youngsters? That was, let's say Larry Bird and Magic Johnson or the Lakers and the Celtics, understanding that they might meet again in the playoff or in the finals. So they're gonna play their hardest. They're gonna do their best to send that message that if we meet you in the finals, this is what you're gonna expect. You're going to expect this kind of treatment right here. And they're going to play their best. And hopefully they blow them out or they beat them, they do something real good to show them. Especially if one of them teams made a specific trade or something like that, they might be like, yo, we got this new player. Yeah, check this out. You ain't going to be able to handle us now. You beat us last year, but we made this adjustment. Watch this, and they're going to come out and show and tell. They were making a statement to the other team that you ain't better than us, or that we still got your number. You can't beat us. Even if, let's say, one of the teams is terrible and the other team is good, it's still just on pride's sake. Yeah, we not that good of a team, but against y'all can't beat us. Go back and look at the Lakers and the Celtics final game at Boston Garden. Prime example. Go back and look at that game, especially the final seconds, and see who won that game. That was a statement. That was a classic example of a statement game, even though it was during the season and both teams wasn't that good. In this case, both teams wasn't that good, but it was just still again. Yeah, we sorry, but against y'all, we gonna win. It's what it is. Oh, this is the last game of the Boston Garden? Oh, okay. It was just a different mentality when it came to playing basketball. It was about competing. It was about competition. It was just about more than just, the dumb stuff that you see nowadays, man. Oh man, I miss the old NBA. Just like I was gonna play, just like what y'all don't know, what a lot of people don't know is that in the 90s, the mid 90s, a really good rival, a really good game to watch, even though both teams was extremely terrible, was the LA Clippers versus the Golden State Warriors. Oh my gosh. If you guys can go back and get any type of game footage, or you could get the games of the Lakers versus Golden State, and I want to say from like maybe 93 to 95, 96. Oh my gosh. Those were some good games because both of them teams was terrible. But when they played against each other, exciting.
Rest from doing what? You already had the summer off. Most of y'all had the whole summer off because most of y'all wasn't playing until June. So what are you resting from? It's now almost a miracle if a player plays 82 games. It's a miracle. Oh my God. Somebody played 82 games. Oh my Lord. I don't think we're ever going to see a day where in one season, 3 All-Stars play 82 games.
And for that reason is why I declined on buying season tickets for the Clippers, because I'm not spending $5,000-$6,000 on season tickets, not knowing whether or not the players are going to play or not. And I told the representative that reached out to me, because I was going to do it, but then I think it came out that some players was out. It was something I saw around that time I was going to purchase that reminded me that, hey man, you might try to see. This is back when Luka was on the Luka was with the Mavericks. I'm like, you might want to see Luka versus Kawhi, but you might be going to pay all this money and they might not play, or one of them might not play. And I just declined not to purchase any tickets. I had a representative reach out to me on email a couple of weeks ago, and I just ignore it because no, I'm not buying no season tickets. I'm not buying no NBA tickets right now until they fix this mess. I'm just kind of done with the NBA for a little bit. I've been spending more time watching baseball and football now, but yeah, the load management is just really, well, that's one of the things that killed my interest in the NBA.
But yet, this is the more advanced. Y'all make it make sense to me. I know that there are people that think that this modern era is the most advanced era that ever played. These guys,
lies.
They jumped off of a spaceship.
Lies.
And they came to Earth. Fine. If this is the most advanced era ever, why is their reliability and durability so lousy? Why is it when it comes to reliability, they all of a sudden fall off the cliff.
They can't play.
Help me. No. There are people that are probably watching and saying this era is a more skill. Okay,
no, it's not.
Just all around better play.
They love saying this era is more skilled. It's easier to look more skilled when nobody could play defense, nobody could touch you. It's easy to look like you more skilled than you really are when nobody can touch you. It's kind of like that backyard basketball with, with father or little son. He's playing defense, but he's not really playing defense. But he let his little son shoot, and he can score. To give him some confidence that he's a good player. But really, he's just. If the dad wanted to block the shot, he could, that kid would never score. But, he's just going to, play off of him a little bit to give him that, that confidence. That's kind of what we watch him with the NBA. These players can't really play that good. They're not that good. But the fact that they got all these rules set up so that they can play, so that they can score, but if they realistically, if you throw a Dennis Rodman type, and I'm not meaning Dennis Rodman, because you got to remember Dennis Rodman, especially when he was with the Pistons, Dennis Rodman was guarding Michael Jordan, and not everything was a hack, all right, because he can't hack every game, every play, because he'll foul out real quick. So that means he had to play some kind of real defense, So this notion that, football, that's not basketball. Well, no, they just didn't allow easy baskets. He wasn't going to just come in and dunk or come in and do an easy layup. Nowadays, there's no big men in the paint, so the lane is wide open. So, of course, LeBron could play 25 seasons. He might play 30 seasons with defense like this because there's no resistance. There's nobody in there to really challenge him. And then the ones that are in there are scared to. Or the rules are set up to where they can't. Like now a high five when a person shot. If you challenge a person's shot and y'all high five, that's a foul? Really? Come on, man. Come on. That's garbage.
As players, why are they breaking down every single day? How many Achilles tears do we see just last year? How many? How many players have already missed time this season? And it hasn't even been 2 full weeks. Ant-Man is out. Luka Doncic is out. This other guy is out. That other guy is out. What is happening? I thought you guys were the most advanced era
Luka
ever.
was out. I know LeBron is out.
And you can't say it's because of workload, because half of the time y'all don't even play. So what's going on here? How do we reconcile this? Nobody wants to answer. Nobody wants to answer. So Jordan is saying that this was a foreign thought to him. A foreign thought. And the only way it's going to change is you're going to need another face of the league to reset the standard. That's what's going to take for it to change. If the next face of the NBA, whether it be...
should it be an American-born player or a foreign player? See, that's going to be the question right there. Y'all be the judge. But my take is that, they are focusing on the foreign player so much that the American player is, going to be extinct in a little bit if they keep it up the way it's going. Because, all they want to do is focus on, other people, which leads to what happens during the Olympics. Now, see, the USA used to dominate. That's not the case no more. So and a lot of the, if you got a lot of the U.S. the players going back to their countries to play on the Olympic team, and there's no promotion or they're not putting any effort into the USA basketball team and the development of those stars, then how do you expect the USA team to compete in the Olympics? They're going to end up losing. They're going to be in last place every single time if they keep this up. So, ooh-wee.
Victor Wembanyama, whoever, if he comes from the LeBron James school of thinking, the NBA is screwed. But if he's a throwback player, which I suspect he is, then maybe the NBA may be saved. Then maybe.
Ain't no throwback players. It's just what it is. But some players may realize that, hopefully some players realize that, how he been going ain't working. So let me try something different. But the throwback player, the Kobe mindset, the Magic, the Jordan, the Isaiah Thomas, Larry Bird, that era mindset, gone.
Then maybe. It's just unbelievable to me. And I know we're going to cover a lot of this later throughout the day, because these Jordan quotes are going to go all throughout the internet.
Well, maybe if Joe Dumars become commissioner, because he'll bring some of that Pistons, energy into the NBA. That's what's necessary. Of course, they know they can't be full Detroit Pistons, full bad boys. But I think if Joe Dumars was to become the NBA commissioner, then we're gonna see something different. The NBA kind of start to go back to what it needed to be. Even if they go back to the 2000 era, mid 2000, I'm not saying go back to the 90s, the 80s, because that's different. But in between 2005 and 2010 was some really good basketball, and there was a combination of modern play versus old school. That was some when Steve Nash was on the Suns, and when KG and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen was on the Celtics, and then you had Joakim Noah and Derrick Rose coming up, and then the Lakers, with Kobe and Paul Gasol. It was still some good. I was probably that short 5-year period was some amazing basketball. If they could just go back to that, the NBA would be in good shape.
You better believe the only people that are going to be upset with Michael Jordan, the vast majority of them will be LeBron fans. The
worst
vast
fans.
Majority of them are LeBron James. The vast majority of them. Funny enough, before Michael Jordan's quotes came out, this video came out, I was watching episode 10 of The Last Dance. Literally, I was watching it before I went to bed. I was literally just watching that and kind of going backward and forth between the Clippers-Warriors game. And I was watching that final episode where everybody was just banged up and discombobulated, and they were still finding a way to push through. Still finding a way. This is the cupcake era. We are witnessing live and direct. So for the people talking about MJ should be the what is it, the commissioner? Y'all don't want that. These young dudes don't want that. What these young dudes want is they want to make their money. They want to show up to work when they can show up. They want to put in the least amount of effort and get the maximum output out of it, and go on and live their lives and look fly. Dudes put more attention into their outfits.
All right, so that's Dreamers Pro. So that's his take on it. So we got Jason Whitlock and Dreamers Pro. Their response to the whole Jordan thing. So let's see what else. All right, so now I found another video. We're going to kind of talk about, again, continuing with load management. Jordan is obviously somebody that people want to hear from, but a lot of people want to also hear from other stars of that generation and what they think about load management. So let's hear what Magic Johnson got to say.
You mentioned a little bit about today's game, because we had Club on here and he talked about load management. He said, I don't know what the hell that is. Where's it going? And that's number one. And number two, how do we get it back?
Even for me, I love the NBA game, but then I turn on to a game, right? And then the stars are not playing because of load management.
Mm-hmm.
It's hurting the game.
90s NBA teams had just a trainer and a strength coach. They practiced more often and harder and played more back-to-backs. Teams now have huge medical and performance staffs and value rest over practice. Yet, injuries and games missed are way up. Something's not working.
And then that last part was a tweet from Jeff Van Gundy. So, I think there's more to it, to the load management thing, in summary. I mentioned it throughout the video that I think is a little bit more to it, but at the end of the day, it's destroying the game, and it's making people not want to watch. It's making it harder to watch. Um, and there's so many things, there's so many barriers to keep you from enjoying the game. I mean, there's low management, and then let's say if you wanted to purchase League Pass and watch a game, that's, you know, I'm out here in Los Angeles, but I can't watch a Lakers game unless I get cable. But I got NBA League Pass that advertised that I could see games on the network. How is the crypto center less than 20 miles from me and I can't watch a Laker game? It's out of my network, really? Like, that doesn't make sense. So there's a lot of things that make the NBA unwatchable, and some of it is just the way everything is set up overall. It's just totally not no longer a fan friendly league. It's all geared towards uh, profit, and it's geared towards expanding the league globally, as opposed to catering to the American NBA fan. And at the end of the day, it's hurting the NBA because you got Giannis talking and Jokic. If he won a championship, he wants to go home. You got players that they're not even from the states. When when the season is over, they want to go home. They don't want to stay around for a parade. They want to go home, and so that speaks to more issues that the league is going to be dealing with when you start marketing to uh, other other continents. Stars of other continents, because when you want them to feel that same level of love and passion for the NBA and for the US, and the US fan base is not there because they just here to play basketball and make money. They're not here for all that other goofy stuff y'all be trying to do and promote and narratives that y'all trying to sell. They're not here for that. They're here to play basketball. So it's the NBA is in a really tight situation with this low management stuff, man. And until they figure it out, among other things, and now they got the whole gambling thing, surfacing, which I'm sure it's always been an issue. I'm sure even in Jordan's day, he probably participated in some stuff. Who knows? But the NBA is in trouble, and for me, I never really, I was always an NBA person. I never paid much attention to sports, other sports outside the NBA. And I'm hearing the same thing is going on, but I'm kind of oblivious to what the changes are to football and basketball. So, but I've been gravitating towards, I'm sorry, football and baseball. But I've been gravitating towards baseball and football lately. I'm kind of the only thing that even got me, which is why the NBA did this. I'm sure the only thing that got me paying attention to the NBA is just seeing how this whole Michael Jordan thing is going to be, and the whole NBA on NBC thing, which I knew it wasn't going to be nearly. It's not going to be what it was. I mean, I'll probably do a video on that, on the real NBA on NBC versus this fake NBA on NBC that they're trying to recreate. Again, but old era was supposed to be old and outdated, but yet, that's what I always find interesting about the younger generation. They enamored with the 80s, 90s, especially the 90s generation, but yet they want to hate on it at the same time. It's crazy. So that's pretty much it, man. What are your thoughts, man? Like and subscribe, and leave a comment. Then let's see what's up.